was submitted, the purpose of the project was to look at how Latino men cross sex with men utilize race, age, and sexual roles, and just anything else that might come up from the interviews, to negotiate condom usage during sexual encounters. And this was just kind of to understand where people were learning about sex, how they were using that information, and how that would all play out. And I was really interested in who Latino men cross sex with men will turn to for support or even information about sexual health. That just came out of my interest of that, like CPS doesn't have a standard sexual health curriculum, so I know that I didn't get that much information, so I'm really wondering where people are getting it from. And also kind of like the various dynamics that interplay into their negotiation of condom usage. Part of the reason that this is relevant and important is that so the graph on your left is actually from CDC. So when you're comparing the HIV infection rates, specifically for MSM, so Latino MSM are the third one down. So they account for, in 2010, they accounted for 6,700 of the new infection rates. For that year, there was approximately 41,000. So we can see that there's a disproportionate infection rate there as well. But the other part the reason I decided to focus on Latinos, while Black MSM are accounting for more infection rates, I have a feeling that there's a lot of testing that's actually not going on in the Latino community, not just because of legal status, but just the access to resources in various communities, which actually came up in my interviews. So I decided to focus on this because Latinos are a growing population, and this is going to be like really relevant to us once this population is larger, and we don't know how to specifically intervene with this population. I didn't just want to frame it around HIV just because it's a little frustrating. That's all the literature talks about. So on the right, they talk about syphilis rates that have gone up 20%. So they're going up specifically for MSM. I couldn't break it down specifically by race, which if I could get my hands on that data, I will. So specifically, men accounted for 8,500 of those infection rates, and MSM are doing 6,700, and then specifically focused in populations under 35. So it's a relatively younger population. Oh wait, what did I do? Sorry, totally just went over that. Oh, and the syphilis rates are important because they're spoken about in conjunction to HIV, and also if it goes untreated, it could have detrimental health effects that could affect the way your brain functions, vision, so on and so forth, which is, if you're looking at MSM rates for syphilis in conjunction to, so MSM is a red one going straight up, women are the ones across the bottom, and men cross sex with women are the ones on top of that, so you can see that there's a big discrepancy there. So for my research method, I decided to focus on qualitative data just because of the frustration of going through a lot of the data, and it's always talking about numbers, but it's not necessarily talking about why something's happening. So I feel that just handing out condoms isn't working anymore because we're handing people condoms and they're not using them. So I feel like that's where this qualitative research comes in. So I ended up doing 7 semi-structured interviews from 45 minutes to 60. I assigned pseudonyms, transcribed. The IRB was filled for anyone over 18 to 81, I believe. But all my interviews turned out, my youngest interview was 21 and my oldest was 28. Chicago area and identified as MSM. So what came out of this was that they were talking about their sexual education and emotional connection as variables for condom usage. So 6 of my 7 had formal sex education within a school setting. The 7th one had like some kind of scandal at his school. I don't know what happened. But they talked about how heteronormative that education actually was, and how it was more so focused on reproduction rather than STD prevention, and that they never really saw themselves in the curriculum. So like when I said in the first one, they didn't talk about men having sex with men. Tomas talked about how they just like use that birth control STI video, which he kind of attributes to the fact that he's gay right now. So it was very interesting because the common thing that came up is I don't see myself in the curriculum. They're not talking about what's going to happen when I'm having sex.